I've been a stalwart supporter of the Palestinian cause for many years. Problem with
One of the many things Ethan Klein conceded to in his now infamous debate with Hassan Piker.
The book that I'm referencing is from the Iron Wall. What is?
What? Yeah, it was on the list. You're lying.
I don't think
Hassan?
I didn't bring up Destiny. You did.
By your authority, I will decide who's hallucinating. Hassan? Want to do propaganda, remember?
Ethan.
Hassan. Please, calm down. You're getting worked up.
I don't know why you're behaving in such a childish manner.
All right, listen, it's 5 o'clock. Like I said, I have a family to go to. I have 3 kids and a wife, and I know that you have a fucking cool-ass race car bed to sleep in, and I hope you enjoy that.
Okay, man. Thank you. Have a good one. I hope this was productive.
Was that he hasn't spent enough time talking about the Palestinian cause since Israel began its genocide, despite claiming to be a stalwart supporter of their cause.
Okay, do you think my coverage has been like totally balanced? I would say no. I've obviously given less time to the Palestinian perspective.
To be exact, as of May 23rd, 2025, it had been 593 days, or almost 85 weeks, since Israel began its genocide. And to be very clear, genocide was the intent of Israel's government from the very beginning. Not only did his wife Ela claim that the genocidal leader of the military force, the IDF, was a really good guy.
Just the other day, Bibi fired a really good guy, did it?
But just getting Ethan to make a simple public call for a ceasefire took weeks of pressure from his own audience. And his call for ceasefire seemed more satirical than a genuine call for peace.
I haven't talked about the Israel-Palestine thing in a while. I saw some people saying, I wish Ethan would call for a ceasefire so I could watch the show again. This is Ethan Klein. Maybe I shouldn't. I'm not even mean to do it as a joke. This is a serious message with peace and love to the Israeli military. I'm calling for a ceasefire today, now, unconditionally, to end the violence.
Do it.
To end the unnecessary loss of life. Please. Thank you. And no more violence. Nothing. No more bombs. This is me, Ethan Klein, telling Bibi Netanyahu, if you are watching, stop. Stop that. You should go to jail, and shame on you. But with all that being said, thank you.
His own words and the words of his newfound allies have proven his pro-Palestine position is just a PR move, not his actual sentiment. But hold the phone. Everything changed when Ethan finally backed up his original claims with real action. And only 85 weeks into this genocide, he finally had a Palestinian guest on who actually lived in Gaza. Finally, Ethan has someone on the show that can accurately give the Palestinian perspective and raise money for the Palestinian aid in Gaza, right?
I've come this close to disavowing the entirety of the pro-Palestine movement as basically being a complete fraud. And I know people in it.
Wait a minute. Did this guy say he is close to denouncing the entire Free Palestine movement? And was he also soliciting donations to a Washington, D.C. based think tank?
As I work at the Atlantic Council, where I am a resident senior fellow, but also I run Realign for Palestine through the Atlantic Council, and I have a we have like our own standalone website, realignforpalestine.org. There is a donate button, and so like you're certainly folks can donate there.
I'm no political expert, but isn't Washington, D.C. the place where a certain government is providing billions of taxpayer dollars and thousands of bombs to Israel and actively aiding in its ongoing genocide? Are senior fellows of a DC-based think tank really a good representation for the Palestinian position? Probably not. Let's get back to Ahmed in just a moment. I want to focus first on the Atlantic Council, the think tank he works and fundraises for, just so we have an idea of his overall agenda. The Atlantic Council was founded with the stated mission to encourage the continuation of cooperation between North America and Europe that began after World War II. Its focus originally was on economic issues and encouraging free trade between Europe and North America. The Atlantic Council is also a member of the Atlantic Treaty Association, or ATA, which is an umbrella organization that brings together political leaders, academics, military officials, and diplomats to support the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, better known as NATO. Again, I'm no political expert, but I'm not sure the agenda of this think tank represents the agenda of the Palestinian people. What about its funding? Well, according to Eric Lipton of the New York Times in a 2014 article, the Atlantic Council has received funding from more than 25 different foreign governments. This fact was reported during criticism of its former chairman, Chuck Hagel, when he was serving as the Secretary of Defense under Obama's second term. The Council has received funding from many controversial sources, including the Orban administration in Hungary, the Ukrainian oligarch-owned Burisma Holdings, and other questionable entities. Their top donors in 2018 were Facebook and the British government. In 2021, some of its biggest donors, giving more than $1 million, were the American Securities Foundation, a private equity firm, Embassy of the United Arab Emirates, Facebook again, Goldman Sachs, the Rockefeller Foundation, and the UK Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office. I'm not sure about you guys, but I don't think any of these entities funding the Atlantic Council represent the Palestinian people or have their best interests in mind. And what about its connections with the US government? I already mentioned former Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel, but wait, there's more. James L. Jones, another former chairman of the Atlantic Council, also served as Obama's national security advisor during his first term. And there were other notable council members that also left to serve the U.S. government. Susan Rice as ambassador to the UN, Richard Holbrooke as the special representative to Afghanistan and Pakistan, General Eric K. Shinseki as Secretary of Veterans Affairs, and Anne-Marie Slaughter as Director of Policy and Planning at the State Department. Rena Neenan is a former member of the Atlantic Council and the Rockefeller Foundation and the Council on Foreign Relations. She currently works as the presider of their public forums. I think it's safe to say the Atlantic Council more accurately represents the U.S. government's and NATO's agendas more than anyone else. And to be honest, we already know the U.S. government's position on the genocide in Israel. They're helping them do it, and they're helping them cover it up. If I wanted to get the truthful perspective of the Palestinian people in Gaza, I don't think I would get it from the same people that are providing the bombs, the financial support, and political support for the government and military force gleefully committing genocidal atrocities every single day, while it levels Gaza. So what else do we need to know about Ahmed?
Once again, Ahmed Fouad Alkhatib.
Well, his parents were from Gaza, but he was born in Saudi Arabia and didn't move to Gaza until he was 10. They moved there just months before the Second Intifada, and he has indeed lost friends and family to Israeli airstrikes. And apparently he also has hearing damage from a strike that hit close to him and killed 3 of his friends. Interestingly, I was unable to find any clips of Ahmed disavowing Israel for those strikes killing innocent people, nor could I find any clips where he says that he and his friends and family that were victims of these bombings were involved with Hamas, or even clips of him saying that evidence of Hamas was targeted and or killed in any of these strikes. That seems a little strange to me and causes my BS detector to start beeping a little. What are we missing from this story? Why doesn't he ever condemn the entity that has killed his friends and family and injured him? Before we continue, keep in mind that Ahmed once said in an interview that he wanted to be a politician or a diplomat from an early age, just 11 or 12 years old, while living in Gaza. Well, in 2005, at the age of 15, he left Gaza for a U.S. Department of State-sponsored cultural exchange program. I definitely find it fascinating that the U.S. government would be interested in funding a cultural exchange program from that specific place at that specific time when it claims the area is full of terrorists. I think it's safe to assume the U.S. government doesn't engage in activities like that without a purpose in mind. During this one-year program, he attended sessions at the Living Room Dialogue, a Jewish-Palestinian conflict resolution group based out of San Mateo, California, which was apparently his first contact with Jewish people or Israelis. I found a couple interesting things. Among the entities that look to this group's methods of conflict resolution are strategists for the U.S. Department of State. Its Wikipedia page even says that the U.S. State Department distributes the group's materials. Now, this is speculation, but I would say it's pretty safe to assume that our 15-year-old Ahmed was likely pointed by the U.S. State Department to attend meetings with this group. And I'm not saying this group hasn't done some good things in bringing together people to discuss conflict resolution. I'm just saying that if the U.S. State Department is actively involved in distributing this group's materials, they are most definitely going to reflect the U.S. government's agenda, at least more so than the agenda and actual perspective of Palestinians living in Gaza, to put it lightly. Another thing that brings into question the bias of this conflict resolution group is it's mentioned that their dialogue methods draw on the wisdom of Elie Wiesel. Now, Elie Wiesel is a Romanian Holocaust survivor, and in 1982, Wiesel worked for the Israeli Foreign Ministry and assisted in the denial of the Armenian genocide. He was also very supportive of illegal settlements in Palestine and publicly criticized Obama for pressuring Netanyahu to stop settlement expansion. This man encouraged a strong Judaism connection to the State of Israel and would publish his religious and Zionist views in full-page ads in U.S. newspapers. Wiesel was also an advisor to the Gatestone Institute, a far-right American think tank known for publishing anti-Muslim articles, with close ties to multiple right-wing billionaire donors, like the Mercer family. It seems clear that the underlying agenda with this group is biased heavily towards the Israeli government and does not represent an honest perspective of Palestinian people at all, especially the people of Gaza. After Ahmed's state-sponsored exchange program ended, he tried to return to Gaza but apparently could not, so he applied for asylum in the U.S. and was accepted. He then finished high school in San Francisco, where he also attended college for marketing and social entrepreneurship. Then he got his master's in intelligence studies from American Military University. I think his areas of study cast an interesting light on his actual career goals compared to his prior stated interest in becoming a politician or diplomat as a child. So no political science or international studies degrees? No, instead he studied military intel, marketing, and social entrepreneurship. Not a big scandal or anything, but I think it's interesting in the bigger picture of trying to decipher this man's intent and goals. His actual time living in Gaza was only 5 years, and from that point onward in his life, and his ideology seemed to be heavily shaped by the U.S. and Israeli government's biases and goals. He also worked for the Washington Institute for Near East Policy, or YNEP, an outwardly pro-Israeli U.S. think tank funded directly by AIPAC. He is clearly pro-Israeli government. Even in an analysis where he's honest about what some of the biggest issues in Gaza are, he does not state that Israel is directly responsible for causing those issues in the same breath. This is a common thread among pro-Israel propagandists that are targeting liberals. They will start with a piece of truth to build their credibility, but then they will lie through omission or lie about the root causes. In his case, he always blames Hamas for the IDF's actions.
No one said anything about, loving what Israel is doing. All I'm saying is that I think a variety of different actions and strategic choices by Hamas and others in Gaza could have led to radically different choices.
But how do we make peace with people who don't even see us as humans? Why do we even talk to people who don't give a... They don't care about me. They don't care about you. They look at us as goyim and all this bullshit. They look at us as like Gentiles.
I would respectfully disagree. And
he writes in his 2017 analysis for the Washington Institute, although Gaza has numerous unfulfilled needs, 2 key issues could serve as starting points for improving safety and security for Gaza's residents: electricity management and freedom of movement. Given the geography and political nature that govern the operation of the Erez and Rafah crossings, people are held hostage by circumstances over which they have no control. Well, that's very true that the citizens of Gaza have no control over these circumstances, but other than saying the vague phrase political nature, Ahmed doesn't declare who is the direct cause of these key issues in Gaza. Instead, he constantly implies it's all Hamas's fault. He never fully expresses the reality that the large, imperial backed occupying government force is the one that sets and controls the standard of violence in the region, and has the sole power to end it by putting an end to dropping bombs and beginning the process of ending its apartheid structure. Ahmed says he's a practitioner of radical pragmatism, which when I heard for the first time just sounded like giving up to me. And to be honest, it still does. Even from a pragmatic standpoint, Israel is at the point of needing heavy outside pressure in order to end and mediate the damage its actions are doing. Instead of recognizing any of that, Ahmed is still blaming Hamas for what's going on and speaking about them as if they have an equal share in ending this clear genocide and clear ethnic cleansing of almost all of Gaza, let alone the West Bank, which he seems to avoid talking about. Hamas has already offered to return all of the hostages for a ceasefire multiple times, and it's standing offer right now. So if even Piers Morgan is at the point of calling Israel's actions a clear genocide, you know anyone that is obfuscating this reality in any way does not represent the overall views of actual Palestinians living in Gaza or the West Bank. There's literally no Palestinian advocacy group in the US that Ahmed finds acceptable. I really don't understand how anyone can claim this man is an advocate for Palestinians. What did Ahmed have to say about the Council on American Islamic Relations, or CARE, the organization that AB's father works for, who the H3 podcast, including Ethan Klein, have praised on several occasions?
If you're, Arab, Muslim, Palestinian, and you want to express sentiments of support for the Palestinian people and channel your energies and have that be harnessed in a constructive, meaningful way, basically at a national level, all you have is Students for Justice in Palestine, much of which I think has devolved to just be a complete disaster. Or you have CARE, which is Muslim Brotherhood adjacent. That's basically your two options, is Students for Justice in Palestine that supports armed resistance as an option, or CARE. Not very compelling.
No pushback from AB, Ethan, or the crew, by the way. Just Hila doing her patented in agreement with him. And wait, hasn't Ethan already said armed resistance is valid even against illegal settlers? So it appears Ahmed is even politically to the right of Ethan, and yet we're supposed to believe he represents some type of consensus in the views of Gazans. My BS detector is a blaring siren at this point. I think it's very clear that no matter where this guy says he's from, and no matter how much he uses the death of his own friends and family members as a vehicle to establish his own credibility, ultimately it's his words and actions that determine whose agenda he speaks for. And the most current and strongest point against him as a Palestinian voice is that he is a senior fellow at a DC-based think tank whose sole purpose is to work in favor of America's, Israel's, and NATO's best interests, not Palestinians. Another obvious red flag is just the way he speaks in total disgust about groups like Students for Palestine and the entirety of the Free Palestine movement.
I've come this close to disavowing the entirety of the pro-Palestine movement.
You will never convince me that this gentleman is a pro-Palestinian voice, even if he does bring up partial truths at times. That's the key to being a good propagandist, which maybe he learned during his intelligence studies or his time working for think tanks linked to the U.S. State Department. I could spend time on the psychology of why individuals will work against the best interests of their own people, just as the Capos did at concentration camps during the Nazi regime. The simplest explanation for Ahmed is likely that he just doesn't really see Palestinians in Gaza as his people. He views himself as an American, living a comfy existence as part of the in-group now. This certainly isn't a new phenomenon, and it's actually a common occurrence amongst most groups that immigrated to the USA. Or I could behave like Ethan and simply claim without any evidence or substance that this guy is a token Palestinian.
Anyway, this is Matt Lieb, everybody who works for Good Mythical Morning. What a fucking piece of shit, weirdo, freak, little token boy is he. And I can call him Token because, I mean, he's like, hey guys, I'm the Token. Anyone want to hear some Jew jokes? Gather around. My grandfather once returned soup. Have you guys heard about the new Jewish car? Y'all want to know why Jews have big noses? Anyone want to take a guess?
Or I could just stick to what I've done here and analyze the facts known about Ahmed Fouad Alkhatib, many of which come directly from him and his employment, and logically conclude that he is a propagandist for the U.S. State Department. As for when Ethan had Ahmed on his show, there was some well-deserved backlash when Ethan decided to promote donations to Ahmed's Realign for Palestine website, as none of this money is going to Gaza citizens or aid distribution to the region at all.
Realignforpalestine.org. There is a donate button. And so like you're certainly folks can donate there.
Donations on his Realign for Palestine website simply go to fund Ahmed and his work at the Atlantic Council. So when Ethan presented this as an opportunity to help Palestinians, he was really directing money to an American think tank with pro-Israeli government stance. It would be very interesting to know how many of H3's millions of subscribers donated directly to Ahmed and the Atlantic Council, believing they were helping Palestinians in Gaza. I don't know if this rises to the level of illegal fraud or not, but it certainly should. And at the very least, it should be very clear that Ahmed Fouad Alkhatib is a morally reprehensible character and is a propagandist for the U.S. State Department